The ground beneath Mount Rainier shook 1,010 times. In a matter of days, the largest earthquake swarm ever recorded on this volcano. Almost no one outside the Pacific Northwest heard about it. At its peak, the mountain was registering 41 earthquakes per hour. Not per day, per hour, while families slept in the valleys below. While children went to school in the direct path of what scientists call the most dangerous volcano in the United States. And here is the detail that tells the real story. The towns sitting in the line of fire were built on top of the last disaster, the ground their homes are standing on. It is the debris field of a mudflow that came off the same mountain 500 years ago. They are living on the graveyard of the previous catastrophe, and they don't know it. This is what happened. July 8, 2025, 1:29 a.m. Pacific Time. The instruments on Mount Rainier's slopes begin to scream. A swarm of small earthquakes erupts beneath the summit. Not one, not 10, hundreds. Within hours, seismologists with the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network are scrambling to locate events faster than the mountain is producing them. By mid-morning on July 8th, the rate hits 41 located earthquakes per hour. The USGS Cascades Volcano Observatory issues an information statement. The largest earthquake so far, magnitude 1.7, depths ranging from 1.2 to 3.7 miles beneath the summit. Alert level, green. Alert level, normal. The agency says there is no cause for concern. And they may be right about the eruption risk. But here is what they are not telling you about what lives at the bottom of that mountain. By July 11th, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network has officially located 1,010 earthquakes. 1,010. In 3 days. The previous record for a swarm at Mount Rainier was set in September 2009. That swarm lasted 3 days and produced 120 located earthquakes. This one shattered it. By the time the swarm wound down on August 25th, seismologists had located more than 1,350 earthquakes. And using advanced template matching technology, a detection system that finds quakes too small to locate conventionally, the actual number of distinct seismic events detected reaches 8,800. 8,800 earthquakes. On a mountain that normally produces 9 per month. The mountain was not quiet. The mountain was screaming. And the question that nobody in the valley below could answer in the middle of the night on July 8th was this: is this how it starts? To understand what is actually at stake here, you have to understand what Mount Rainier is, not what it looks like, what it is. At 14,410 feet, it is the highest peak in Washington state, the most topographically prominent mountain in the contiguous United States. It sits 59 miles south-southeast of Seattle, is covered by 25 glaciers. It holds the largest glacial system in the contiguous 48 states. And buried inside it, acidic groundwater has been cooking the volcanic rock for centuries, not just heating it, dissolving it, converting hard volcanic stone into weak clayrich material that behaves under pressure like wet clay. The USGS calls this hydrothermal alteration. Scientists call it the slow internal collapse of the mountain's structural integrity. The residents of Ording, Washington call it Tuesday. Ording is a town of 9,000 people. It sits in the Puyallup River Valley, 20 miles from Mount Rainier summit. The flat floor of the valley, the land Ording sits on, is made of something very specific. It is the compressed deposit of the electron mudflow, a lahar, a volcanic mudflow that came off Mount Rainier approximately 500 years ago. No eruption triggered it. The mountain simply gave way. Section of the volcanic slope, weakened by centuries of hydrothermal alteration, collapsed. The resulting debris surge traveled 34 miles down the Puyallup Valley, covered 13 square miles, was up to 26 feet deep. Today, the town of Ording stands on that deposit. The grocery store, the elementary school, the fire station, all of it built on the evidence of the last time the mountain did what it can do again. But here's what is not making most headlines. Lahore is not lava. You cannot outrun lava. You also have time to see it. A lahar moves like flowing concrete. It travels at 45 to 50 miles per hour in confined valleys. It does not give you a red glow on the horizon. It does not announce itself with an ash cloud you can watch build for hours. It comes as a roar, and then a wall. And then there's nothing left where there used to be a town. The USGS has modeled what happens when a lahar originates in the upper Puyallup River Valley without eruptive precursors. Without the warning signs that usually come before an eruption, their conclusion. A lahar could reach the city of Orting in as little as 40 minutes after the initial warning is sounded. 40 minutes. To evacuate 9,000 people, including hundreds of children and schools built inside the hazard zone. The city of Orting's own emergency preparedness page tells residents to plan to walk out, not drive. Walk. Because automobile accidents during a mass evacuation create bottlenecks that will get people killed. They are telling people to run on foot. In 40 minutes. This is the timeline they are not showing you. Mount Rainier has a lahar warning system. It was established in 1998. It uses a network of acoustic flow monitors, sensors buried underground that measure the ground vibrations of a passing lahar. When triggered, signals travel to two 24-hour emergency operations centers. One run by the state of Washington, one run by Pierce County. From there, 42 outdoor sirens across the Puyallup and Nisqually River valleys begin to wail. It is a good system. For 1998, the original technology transmitted sensor data every 2 minutes. That means there was at least a 4-minute delay between when the lahar passed a sensor and when the system said a lahar had passed. 4 minutes of a 40-minute window, gone. Before a single siren wails. Before a single phone buzzes. Before a single parent wakes up. The system has since been upgraded to real-time transmission. But the sensors still need to detect a flow that is already moving. That is not early warning. That is confirmation that the mud is on its way. Here is what the USGS does not say loudly enough. There is a 1 in 7 chance of a catastrophic lahar at Mount Rainier occurring in the next 75 years. 1 in 7. Think about those odds for a moment. If you boarded a plane with a 1 in 7 chance of crashing, you would not board that plane. And if those odds applied to your neighborhood, the neighborhood where your children sleep, you would not sleep either. The USGS also estimates a 1 in 10 chance that a lahar reaches the Puget Sound lowlands during an average human lifetime. And Pierce County's own data puts 2.5 million people in the 6 drainages that may be affected by lahars from Mount Rainier. 2.5 million people, the shadow of a 1 in 7 chance. We have seen this exact scenario before. It's not a warning, not a model, not a drill. The real thing. November 13th, 1985. Nevado del Ruiz, Colombia. A glacier-clad volcano. Eruption lahars. A town called Armero. Population 25,000. The flows arrived at 11:30 p.m. By midnight, more than 20,000 people were dead. Armero was buried in 16 feet of mud. Entire city erased in less than 30 minutes. Authorities had been warned. Scientists had issued reports. The hazard maps had been drawn. The evacuation plan existed on paper. And 20,000 people were still in Armero when the mountain came down. The USGS explicitly references the Armero disaster when describing the risk to communities below Mount Rainier. That is not a casual comparison. That is a warning dressed up as history. Back to July 8th, 2025, 1:29 a.m. The swarm begins. By mid-morning, 41 earthquakes per hour. By that Friday, July 11th, 1,010 located earthquakes. The largest individual quake in the swarm. Magnitude 2.42. Just over 2. Not the kind of earthquake that rattles your dishes, but the kind that makes the news by itself. The kind that you feel as a faint rumble and dismiss. Now multiply that by 1,010. Now add the 7,790 additional events detected by template matching that were too small to locate conventionally. Now consider the USGS explanation for what caused the swarm. Water. Moving through the hydrothermal system above the magma chamber. That same hot acidic water that has been dissolving the volcanic rock inside the mountain, creating weak zones, creating clay-rich material, creating the exact conditions that produced the electron mudflow 500 years ago, without an eruption, without a warning. Here is what the science says about the earthquake swarm itself. The USGS Cascades Volcano Observatory determined the average depth of the July 2025 earthquakes was 2.8 miles beneath the summit. That is inside the hydrothermal zone.
Not at magma depth.
Not a direct signal of imminent eruption. Scientists identified 48 distinct families of repeating earthquakes during the swarm, families, the same patches of rock breaking again and again. The same stress fracturing the same points inside the mountain repeatedly. What that means in terms of what happens next is, as the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network stated directly, not well understood, the largest earthquake swarm ever recorded at this volcano. And the leading experts on this mountain told the public, "We are not entirely certain what this means." Now let us talk about what a lahar actually looks like in motion. It does not look like flowing water. It does not look like a flood. It looks like concrete, churning, gray, carrying boulders the size of cars, picking up trees, buildings, bridges, not destroying them, absorbing them into its mass. The Osceola mudflow that came off Mount Rainier 5,600 years ago was 100 feet deep at its thickest point. 100 feet. A 10-story building, submerged. It traveled over 60 miles from the summit. It reached the site of what is now downtown Tacoma. It reshaped the geography of western Washington. Rivers were relocated. The Puget Sound lowlands were rebuilt by that single event. If a lahar of similar scale happened today, it would not just reach Ortine, it would reach Fife, it would reach Puyallup, it would reach the port of Tacoma, one of the busiest seaports on the West Coast. The port handles tens of billions of dollars in cargo per year. It would be gone. Here is the detail about Orting that the national media skips every time. The city's own emergency preparedness document tells residents this. Scientists estimate we may be in a 300-year window. 300-year window. That means that according to geological averages, a major lahar from Mount Rainier is statistically overdue. The electron mudflow was 500 years ago. Before that event, the repeat interval for large lahars was measured in centuries. But here's what they also say. It has been approximately 500 years since a large mudflow came through the Orting-Puyallup Valley. 500 years. The last time was exactly when the geological record says it is time to expect the next one, and the city's guidance for what to do when the sirens wail. Oh, don't wait. Evacuate. Those are the words of a government that knows its citizens have 42 minutes. Here is what is happening right now. In 2026, a new regional lahar evacuation drill is being planned. The previous one in March 2024 was the largest lahar evacuation drill ever held anywhere in the world. 45,000 students. From Puyallup, Sumner Bonnie Lake, Orting, White River, Carbonado, practicing how to walk out on foot in 42 minutes. 13,000 of those students walked up to 2 miles each way to reach designated safe zones outside the mapped lahar hazard area. Elementary school children, practicing survival, because the adults who built those schools in those valleys decided the view is worth it. But here is what is not in the evacuation drill. It's a scenario where it happens at 1:29 in the morning. The scenario where the 42 sirens begin wailing across the Puyallup Valley in the dark. The scenario where 9,000 people in Orting wake up disoriented, without knowing whether to get in their cars or run on foot. The scenario where the highway out of the valley is already gridlocked, because everyone had the same idea at the same time. The scenario where the mountain gave no advance warning, no eruption, no ash cloud, no seismic swarm that anyone felt, just a slope that had been quietly dissolving for centuries, finally losing its structural coherence. In 40 minutes? Not 40 minutes from when the siren sounds. 40 minutes from when the lahar is detected, which means 40 minutes minus the detection lag, minus the time it takes to wake up, minus the time it takes to get your children out of bed, minus the time it takes to decide what to take with you, minus the traffic. The funding question. Wikipedia's own article on Mount Rainier notes it directly. Since 2001, federal funding for lahar protection in the Rainier area has dried up. Local authorities in cities like Orting have feared a disaster similar to the Armero tragedy. That sentence is in the encyclopedic entry, not in a fringe blog, not in a worst-case advocacy paper. In the standard reference article, the monitoring system has been improved. The sirens have been upgraded. 42 of them now cover the valleys. They are tested on the first Monday of every month. But the expansion of the lahar detection network inside Mount Rainier National Park. 12 additional monitoring sites was still going through environmental review as recently as 2019, and installation was not completed until recent years. For a mountain, the USGS rates as a very high threat volcano. For a mountain where 2.5 million people live in the potential lahar drainages, for a mountain that just produced the largest earthquake swarm in its recorded history, the swarm is over. As of August 25, 2025, the USGS declared that seismic activity at Mount Rainier had returned to normal levels. The alert level remained green. The aviation code remained green. The mountain is quiet again. For now. The hydrothermal system that the USGS believes caused 8,800 earthquakes may still be active at levels too small to generate detectable seismicity. The water is still moving. The acid is still dissolving the rock. The Claridge weak zones are still there. The Puyallup River Valley is still full of homes. Ording is still a city of 9,000 people built on the debris of the last time. And the question that nobody in official Washington state government, nobody at the USGS, nobody in the national media has answered in plain language is this: when? The largest earthquake swarm ever recorded at the most dangerous volcano in the United States occurs in the same hydrothermal zone that has been quietly disassembling the mountain's internal structure for centuries. At what point does the 300-year window close? The USGS says there is a 1 in 7 chance of a catastrophic lahar at Mount Rainier in the next 75 years. The city of Ortin says its residents have 42 minutes. The last major lahar needed no eruption to occur. The last major earthquake swarm just happened. The mountain is back to normal. The sirens test every first Monday of the month. They use the Westminster chime tone, so residents know it is just a test. When it is not a test, they use the wailing tone. And when they hear that wailing tone, they are supposed to leave immediately. On foot if necessary, in whatever direction is uphill, without waiting, without going back, without assuming they have more time than the clock says they do. In Orting tonight, the mountain is calm. The instruments are reading normal. The 42 sirens are silent. And somewhere beneath 14,410 feet of ice and glaciers and weakened volcanic rock, the water that caused 8,800 earthquakes is still moving, still dissolving, still waiting. The mountain does not have a schedule. The mountain does not care that the swarm is over. And the 9,000 people in Orting cannot see the top from inside their homes, but the top can see them.